In this video, we will see what is constructors and what are the rules need to be take care while writing constructors in Java. Constructors are required to create an object of any class in Java. While writing constructors, we should follow some rules. Constructor name must be same as the class name. If you give constructor name as different from the class name, it will give compile time error. It is treating as it is not a method, neither a method nor a constructor. If you see here, the error is written type of a method is missing. It is giving written type of a method is missing. It is treating it is saying yes, this method is this one this statement needs a written statement, like that it is saying. So that means like a constructor name should be always same name as the class name, and constructors will not have written types. What will happen if you provide a written type of a constructor? If you give a written type for the constructors, nothing will happen. It will be treated as a method. It will be treated as a method. See, if you see, a method name can have class name or a constructor name. It is legal to have, but it is not recommended. If you see, it is giving a warning saying that this method has a constructor name. Every class will have at least one constructor. Every class will have at least one constructor. If you're not writing any constructor, it default constructor will be there. For example, if you have a class, public class of employee, if you're not defining any constructor, it will be treated as like this. Default constructor will be there by default. Compiler will define default constructor, that is no argument constructor. Before constructor name, we can define public or public, private, private or protected keywords. Protected, protected keywords. Other than this, if you give any keywords, it will give compile time error. By default, constructors will be public. You can mention private or protected. Private, if you mentioned as if you mentioned a constructor as private, so this constructor can be called within this class only. There is some use cases are there defining defining a constructor as private. For creating singleton classes, we will define classes as the constructors as private. One class can have any number of constructors. That kind of constructors we can say as constructor overloading. Constructor overloading. What is the use of this constructor overloading means? We can able to create the employee objects in these many three ways. Like we are having three constructors. So in three different ways we can able to create the objects. Duplicate constructors are not allowed in general cases, like methods also, duplicate methods are not allowed in Java. In the same way, duplicate constructors also not allowed. First statement of any constructor is either this or super, either this or super. If you are not mentioning anything, if you are not mentioning any either this or super, it will be treated as like this. It will be treated as a super method. If you give this statement as a second statement, it will for example, we as we discussed, first statement of any constructor must be either super or this. If you give any statement before this, it will give compile time error. If you give any statement, it will be give compile time error. If you see here, constructor calls must be the first statement in a constructor. And recursive constructor calling is not allowed. So to call current class constructor we will use this method. To call superclass constructor we will use super method. So to call this current class method like current class sorry to call current class constructor we will use this keyword. To call this current class one we will use this keyword. So if you see here, this is not allowed. Recursive calling of a constructor is not allowed. Recursive construction invocation employee, this means it is not allowed. And also employee of we will create another constructor. And also this will give that. And also cyclic constructor calling also not allowed. If you see here from this default constructor we are calling this was one argument constructor. From one argument constructor we are calling this one. This will be never ended. That's the reason. Let us summarize so far what I have discussed. So name of a constructor must be same as the class name. Constructor must not have a written type. Every class at least have one constructor. By default, no argument constructor will be there. For constructors, before constructors, we are allowing public, private, and protected. If you give any others, it is not allowed yet. That means it will give compile time error. One class can have more than one constructor, that is called as constructor overloading. Duplicate constructors are not allowed. First statement of a constructor must be either this or super. Recursive constructor calling is not allowed and no cyclic calling of constructors. Hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.